Not long after Jason Chen proposed to me, I received a text message, a reservation confirmation from a wedding venue. But the names on the booking weren't mine or Jason's. I didn't lash out immediately. Instead, I followed the information in the message and went straight to the wedding planning company. A staff member handed me a wedding preparation booklet. "Miss Xu, how come you didn't come with Mr. Chen today?" she asked. My heart pounded violently in my chest, but I kept my composure and calmly removed my mask. "By Mr. Chen, do you mean Jason Chen?" I asked. "I'm sorry, but my last name isn't Xu." With a faint shred of hope, I carefully opened the wedding booklet. One glance and I couldn't breathe. On the very first page was a clearly printed photo of the bride and groom in their wedding attire, and the groom was my fiancé, Jason Chen. Just a month ago, Jason had successfully proposed to me. At that moment, the massive diamond ring was still sitting on the ring finger of my left hand. The staff member looked at me, a bit apologetically. "Ma'am, we truly didn't know. Mr. Chen and Miss Xu came to look at the venue half a month ago. Honestly, you and Miss Xu really do look a lot alike." I snapped the booklet shut and forced my eyes away from the wedding photo. The woman in Jason's arms must have been Miss Xu. I hated to admit it, but she really did look like me. Her eyes, her nose, even the faint dimple on her cheek were exactly the same. For a moment, I couldn't even tell who was in the photo. Seeing that I seemed a bit unsteady, the staff member quickly reached out to support me. "Are you really not Miss Xu?" Just then, the glass doors swung open with a creak. The couple from the wedding photo walked in, arms linked. The moment Jason saw me, a flicker of guilt crossed his face. His deep gaze slowly moved downward until it landed on the wedding booklet in my hand. "Haley, what are you doing here?" he asked. He quickly withdrew the arm that had been wrapped around Vivian's shoes and walked toward me, his steps a little too hurried to be natural. "Haley, don't get the wrong idea. Let me explain." I saw every trace of panic and unease in Jason's eyes. I took a few steps back to avoid the hand he reached out toward me. "Nice photo. Congratulations on your wedding," I said. I took a deep breath, barely managing to calm the storm inside me. Jason's brow furrowed slightly. His large hand stopped just inches from me. He didn't dare come any closer but still refused to give up. "Haley, how did you find this place?" he asked, like he'd sensed something was off. His sharp eyes locked onto mine. "Did you follow me?" The accusation chilled me to the bone. Just then, Vivian Xu stepped forward in her high heels, her lips curved in a smile. She gently twirled a strand of hair by her ear with her slender fingers, and suddenly, a diamond ring, identical to mine, flashed in my eyes. It was dazzling, yet felt like a wildfire searing into my vision. I instinctively turned my head away, afraid to look. So even the proposal, Jason had bought 2 identical rings? Vivian took another step toward me, lifting her hand to show off the ring. The scent of her unique perfume reached my nose, a smell I'd noticed on Jason lately, but couldn't quite place until now. This was it. The realization stabbed through my heart like an ice pick, leaving a freezing gust of wind rushing through me. Vivian's voice was soft, her smile filled with the kind of happiness that only comes from feeling secure in love. "You must be Haley, right? Hello, I'm Vivian Xu, Jason's good friend." I didn't reach out to shake her hand. I just stood there, staring at the ring on her finger. After a few seconds of awkward silence, Vivian withdrew her hand, her expression visibly darkening. It was Jason who finally broke the silence. He grabbed my wrist and pulled me behind him protectively. "We're holding the wedding next month," he said. "As his close friend and confidant, she's just helping out." Jason opened his mouth to say more, but his eyes dropped to the booklet in my hand, which had just flipped back open to the page with the wedding photo. His grip on my wrist tightened, like he wanted to crush the bones in my hand. Jason frantically snatched the booklet from my hands and tossed it carelessly onto the table. "Vivian's fiancé is currently overseas and can't make it back for now. He and I are about the same build, so I came to try on the tuxedo in his place." As for the photo, I cut him off, my voice trembling slightly. "Jason, am I just a stand-in?" Those few words drained every ounce of strength from me. I no longer looked at Jason. Instead, I turned toward Vivian Xu and her face that mirrored mine. Jason and I met through work, and looking at the timeline, he did know Vivian earlier than he met me. So am I really just a replacement? Jason's thin lips tightened and the sharpness in his eyes dulled. His Adam's apple bobbed as he struggled to speak. Haley, my relationship with Vivian isn't what you think. My eyes burned, tears threatening to blur my vision. I pointed directly at Vivian, my voice raised. Then tell me, what is this about? Jason rubbed the bridge of his nose in frustration, feigning confusion. What do you mean? I don't understand what you're saying. I stared at him, speaking each word with deliberate clarity. Why do we look so alike? Why did I get the wedding venue reservation text? Why did you two take wedding photos together? Every single question burned inside me. I needed answers. I've never feared the end of a relationship, nor the departure of someone who no longer loves me. What I've always feared is betrayal. Jason didn't respond. Instead, he turned toward Vivian. Vivian, could you help me explain this to Haley, please? His voice was gentle, almost pleading, like a feather brushing against my chest, light but unbearably painful. Vivian stepped forward and wrapped her arm around Jason's. Jason, people keep saying your fiancé looks just like me. Now that I see her in person, it's true. Be honest, do you still have feelings for me? From the moment I saw her, Vivian had worn a faint smile, but there was never any warmth behind it. Her clear, pretty eyes remained cold and distant, making her hard to read. When she said those ambiguous words, Jason's brow twitched. He leaned in slightly toward her and whispered, Vivian, we both have fiancés now. Don't say things like that. As he spoke, he glanced at me and added, I don't want Haley to misunderstand our relationship. Vivian's previously sweet expression darkened instantly. She yanked her arm away from him in frustration and pouted. Jason, weren't you the one who said you wanted to take a wedding photo with me? To fulfill your childhood dream? Tears welled in Vivian's eyes, and she looked heartbreakingly pitiful. Jason instinctively raised his hand to wipe the tears from her cheek, but halfway there he froze, suddenly remembering I was still standing right there. When he turned to look at me, his eyes wavered slightly. Haley, everyone has regrets from their youth. I hope you can understand. Vivian and I are really just friends now. Once her wedding is over, we'll have ours right away. I took a step back in disgust, putting distance between myself and the two of them. Jason, you make me sick. If you regret not being with her, why didn't you just propose to her? Why drag me into this mess and humiliate me like this? I have no interest in being anyone's replacement. I, Haley Zhao, refuse to be anyone's second choice. You're not worthy, Jason. My gaze dropped to their still intertwined hands, and a wave of nausea rolled through me. At that moment, I had only one thought: to get out of there as fast as possible. Jason followed my gaze and, as if burned, immediately let go of Vivian. He took a long stride toward me, trying to pull me into his arms. For the first time, Jason Chen, who had always been composed and self-assured, looked truly panicked. Haley, it's not what you think. I really do love you. I really want to marry you, Jason said. Spend the rest of my life with you. Before he could finish, I slapped him hard across the face with everything I had. The crisp sound echoed in the room. A vivid red mark quickly spread across his otherwise handsome face. He held his cheek in disbelief, lowering his eyes to look at me. Haley, you hit me? The staff, who had been quietly watching from the sidelines, gasped aloud. But Vivian Shu remained still, standing calmly in place, as if she had seen this moment coming all along. A faint, mocking smile tugged at her lips, a trace of blood at the corner. Let it out if it makes you feel better, Haley, she said sweetly. But Jason and I still have things to take care of today. Vivian turned to the staff and gestured with her finger. The groom's suit still needs adjustments. Follow Jason's measurements and fix it accordingly. And since his fiancée is clearly upset, let's change the name on the booklet back to my husband's. As she spoke, she turned and glanced sideways at me. There. Satisfied now, Haley? What made her think changing the name back would make this go away? I flexed my hand, still tingling from the slap, and let out a cold laugh. I really don't care whose name is on that damn booklet. But if you're really so capable, why not list both Jason Chen and your husband's names on the cover? Let's see how that plays out at the wedding. I picked up my bag, ready to leave. I had no intention of getting dragged into their mess any longer. But Vivian stepped in front of me, blocking the door. Her delicate brows furrowed tightly. Haley, are you still mad? Don't worry, your fiancé is yours. I'm not the kind of person who'd try to steal someone else's man. Her words grated on my nerves. Without hesitation, I raised my hand and slapped her across the face. This slap wasn't as forceful as the one I gave Jason. After all, the real root of this mess was Jason himself. If he'd kept his boundaries, none of this would have happened. Vivian fell silent, her wide eyes, so eerily similar to mine, staring at me in disbelief. Haley Zhao, what gives you the right to hit me? Just because you found out you were my substitute? Embarrassed now, aren't you? Her voice trembled with anger, each word like a sharp jab to my chest. But before she could finish, Jason suddenly cut her off. He grabbed my hand and pulled me to his side, placing himself opposite Vivian. Don't keep provoking her tonight, he warned. Haley is my fiancée. I helped you book the venue and tried on the tux for you as a friend, nothing more. I stood there, staring at the two of them, our faces so alike, even our names sounded alike. I couldn't help but wonder, could Jason really tell the difference between us? How many nights had he held me close, whispering Wan Wan again and again? Was he calling me, or Vivian? I yanked my hand free and shoved him hard. Jason staggered backward, his balance thrown, nearly falling to the ground. Jason, I said, voice sharp, one last question. Did you pay the deposit for that wedding venue? Jason's eyes darted away, unable to meet mine. A few days ago, I noticed a large withdrawal from his bank account. When I asked about it, he brushed it off with some vague excuse. Now it was all coming together. That money, it went to this. After a long pause, Jason finally composed himself and looked up at me. Haley, I only paid it temporarily. Vivian will reimburse me later. Don't worry, it won't affect our wedding. I raised my hand, signaling him to stop. Don't say another word. From this moment on, we're done. The engagement is off. And with that, I turned and walked away without looking back. Jason started to follow me, wanting to explain, but Vivian caught him by the arm. Jason, you still have to go over the wedding walkthrough with me today. I only get one wedding. You don't want anything to go wrong, do you? Let Haley cool off on her own. She'll come around eventually. I didn't turn back. I pushed the door open and walked out. Behind me, their voices grew fainter and fainter, until their voices completely faded beyond my hearing. Jason never once came after me. But this time I no longer expected him to. That night, Jason didn't come home. He called to say there were still some details of the wedding that needed to be worked out. Maybe out of guilt, he added sheepishly. I ordered you some takeout. Eat something and get some rest. I'll be back a bit later. How thoughtful of him, spending the evening with his so-called soulmate and then coming home to the stand-in. Jason really was keeping busy. If this were our wedding, would he be putting in the same effort? There was silence on the other end of the line. After a long pause, Jason sighed and said, Haley, this situation, it's different. My eyes drifted to the pile of luggage by the door. Messy, but neatly packed. It was everything from our 3 years of living together, every trace of our shared life crammed into those bags. I should have stopped expecting anything from him a long time ago. I shouldn't have even answered his call. But I couldn't accept it, not after I had poured 3 years of my heart into this relationship, only to find out I had merely been a substitute for someone else. I had never felt this defeated, and I had never hated Jason Chen so much. I tried to steady my breathing, to keep my voice sounding normal. Jason, I've packed your things. Once you're done with whatever you're doing, come pick up your crap. I don't want it polluting my space. Jason clearly picked up on the shift in my tone. His voice suddenly turned panicked, and through the phone I could even hear the loud bang of a door slamming. A minute later, he came back on the line, breathless. Haley, I really am just helping a friend with her wedding. It's not what you think. I let out a bitter laugh and pulled the phone away from my ear. You could have just said it was Vivian. Calling her your friend, that word is too good for what you two are. Does Vivian feel no shame? She's about to marry someone else, and don't you feel even a shred of guilt toward me? You two should have just been tied together years ago. That way, you wouldn't have the chance to drag anyone else down with you. I don't know which of my words finally hit a nerve, but after a few seconds of silence, Jason suddenly roared through the phone, his voice raw with fury. I won't let you talk about Vivian like that. I've already chosen to let go of the past. I proposed to you, didn't I? Why do you have to keep pushing? Why humiliate me like this? Listening to him defend Vivian so fiercely, I knew I should have been angry, but I wasn't. My heart felt empty, flat, like still water that no longer rippled. After loving him for 3 years, I realized at that moment, I didn't love him anymore. I said nothing. I just hung up the phone. Then I packed the rest of my things and moved out as quickly as I could. Jason and I had lived in that apartment for 3 years. Every corner of that place was steeped in memories of our love. But now, seeing it clearly, I realized it had all been an illusion, a carefully constructed lie. I was full of resentment, full of hate. But before I could even begin to think about revenge, Vivian Chu reached out first. "Haley," the message said, "you gave up pretty quickly." It came from an unfamiliar number, but I knew it was Vivian the moment I read it. I didn't reply. I turned off my phone and went back to preparing my visa documents, but just a few minutes later, another message popped up. "To tell you the truth," she wrote, "I never loved Jason, not from the start. But I got used to having him around, always doting on me, indulging me. Who wouldn't want a loyal dog at their side? Pathetic." So in Vivian Chu's mind, Jason Chen was nothing but a dog, and yet he kept giving and giving, treating her like some untouchable goddess. I set down the documents and calmly typed back, "Then you're very generous to take wedding photos with your dog." What's that phrase again? Oh right. You really are a perfect match for each other. Vivian clearly didn't take that well. It took her several minutes to respond. "Haley Zhao," she finally wrote, "at this point, what are you still trying to fight for? Even if Jason ends up marrying you," Vivian wrote, "as long as I lift a finger, he'll come crawling back to me like a little lapdog. Don't you believe it?" I ignored her provocation and shot back with a cold question. "Does your fiancé know about you and Jason Chen?" That one line silenced her. I could tell from the pause that her husband-to-be, still overseas, had no idea about her entanglement with Jason. Which meant someone needed to let him know. It said that through the 6 degrees of separation, you can find anyone in the world. Maybe luck was on my side, because through just 3 connections I was able to get in touch with Vivian's fiancé. The man didn't believe me at first. His tone was cold and dismissive. "I trust Vivian," he said. "I won't let anyone slander her." Sensing his resistance, I calmly sent him a photo of myself. "Don't I look a lot like Vivian?" I asked. I became her stand-in. "And what about you? Could you be Jason Chen's?" I had never met Vivian's fiancé in person, but through bits and pieces of our conversation, I realized he wasn't someone ordinary. After a long pause, he finally replied with a short message. "You're Haley Zhao." A wave of confusion washed over me. Why did he know who I was? When I didn't respond, he quickly followed up, "I'm flying back now." The final sentence carried a weight I couldn't quite decipher. A vague sense of unease crept into my heart, but I couldn't put my finger on why. Perhaps once he returned, everything would come to light. For days, Jason tried and failed to reach me. I began to sense his panic. Through my security camera feed, I saw him slumped at my doorstep, disheveled and defeated. His usually neat hair was a mess, and he was still wearing the custom tuxedo meant for Vivian's wedding. So even his attempts to win me back only happened after he had taken care of Vivian first. I had always been his second choice, his fallback. In the footage, Jason knocked weakly on the door, his voice tired and hoarse. "Haley, I just want to see you, just once. Please open the door. I really miss you." Before leaving, I had changed the passcode. Unless he broke down the door, Jason had no way of getting in. This 3,000 square foot apartment was a gift from him during our honeymoon phase. Back then, to prove his loyalty, he'd even signed a legal agreement to give it to me. I'm not someone who sees money as meaningless, nor do I feel obligated to return this place. It was compensation, what Jason owed me. Over the past few days, Jason practically blew up my old phone with calls. To avoid the disturbance, I got a new phone and a new number. I didn't block him, I just left the old phone and SIM card sitting in a drawer, untouched. My resentment toward Jason wouldn't let me forgive him so easily. I wanted to punish him. Let him hear the endless rings, waiting for an answer that would never come. I knew I was never the most important person in his heart, but as long as he still carried an ounce of guilt, this would be enough to torment him. As I stared at the live security feed, a new message popped up. It was from Vivian Shu's fiancé. My flight just landed. Let's meet. I agreed to meet with Nate Gu at a coffee shop. The real Nate Gu looked quite different from the man I had imagined from our texts. When he appeared at the cafe entrance, his forehead was dotted with sweat. He was wearing a black trench coat, and as he walked quickly toward me, a clean, pleasant breeze seemed to follow him. There was a glimmer in his eyes, his lips trembling slightly as he said, "Haley Zhao. It's been a long time. Have you been well?" He seemed like he wanted to say more, but stopped himself and swallowed his words. I eyed him warily. "You know me?" Nate's Adam's apple bobbed up and down nervously. "You don't remember me? I was the guy standing behind you in our high school graduation photo." He looked at my expressionless face, his gaze dimming as he realized I had no recollection of him. My indifference seemed to hurt him deeply. But the truth was, I genuinely didn't remember something from that long ago. There was, however, one thing I was absolutely sure of. Maybe Vivian Su and I were each other's stand-ins. That thought suddenly made everything feel oddly amusing. Nate Gu didn't seem particularly interested in the details of Vivian's drama. As I explained everything from beginning to end, his deep, unwavering gaze never once left me. His stare burned into my skin until the back of my neck prickled. I slid his coffee toward him and asked, "Mr. Gu, are you even listening to me?" Nate didn't respond at all. I raised my voice slightly. "Nate Gu, your wife ran off with another man." That finally jolted him back to reality. His eyes cleared instantly. "It's not that big of a deal. If you're still angry, I'll take you to confront them together." I leaned forward slightly, hooked a finger around his tie, and smiled teasingly. Why bother going to them? Wouldn't it be more satisfying if they came to us? Before the words were even fully out of my mouth, a shrill scream erupted from the cafe entrance. "Nate Gu, what the hell are you doing?" Both Nate and I turned our heads in sync. Standing at the entrance, pale as a sheet, was Vivian Shu. My eyes went straight past her to the man behind her. I burst into laughter. Well, if it isn't my ever-helpful ex-fiancé. Jason Chen shoved past Vivian in a rush, his long legs carrying him quickly toward me. He reached my side and yanked my wrist. "Why are you with him tonight? I've been looking for you for days. Come home with me." I tightened my grip on Nate's tie. No matter how hard Jason pulled, I didn't let go. His eyes turned red with frustration. He reached out with his other hand to try and pry my fingers off, but Nate stepped in swiftly and knocked Jason's hand away. "Mr. Chen, before I lose my patience, I suggest you take your hands off her." His voice was calm, but the chill in his tone made the whole room tense. Jason stared at him for a few seconds, then finally backed down and let go, though clearly unwilling to give up. "Since her fiancé's back, maybe we shouldn't get in their way. Come home with me. There's something important I need to tell you." Still leaning forward, my fingers curled around Nate's tie, I didn't move. From any angle, the scene looked as intimate as it could possibly be. Vivian Shu, still frozen in the doorway, finally regained her senses and stormed toward us in heels. She raised her hand, clearly intending to slap me. "Haley Zhao, you really are shameless. Can't keep Jason's heart, so now you're seducing my husband. All this effort, and it's still pointless. You'll never be anything more than my stand-in." But before her slap landed, Nate caught her wrist firmly. In the next second, he shoved her hand away without the slightest change in expression. "Vivian, stop this nonsense." Vivian stumbled back from the force, barely steadying herself by grabbing the edge of the table. She turned to glare at me, her eyes bloodshot. "Haley Zhao, no one in this world truly loves you. You'll always just be my substitute, always beneath my feet." There was a sharp edge of desperation in her voice. It was as if she could only feel victorious by attacking that one point, trying to convince herself she'd won. But before all of this, she and I had never even met. So why did she hate me this much? The entire cafe fell silent. Nate and I were sitting so close that I thought I could hear his heartbeat. 1 beat, 2 beats, 3. The kind of rhythm no man can hide when his feelings are beginning to stir. Haley Zhao is not a substitute. His simple sentence cut through the suffocating stillness like a blade. I had expected those words, but the others clearly hadn't. Both Jason and Vivian looked stunned. Vivian was the first to react. She lunged forward and grabbed Nate's sleeve. Nate Gu, what's that supposed to mean? Nate calmly removed her hand, then reached out and gently clasped mine. The reason I stayed with you was because you look a lot like Haley, Nate said quietly. Especially those eyes. His gaze locked with mine, steady and intense, then a faint smile curved at the corners of his mouth. But now, I don't need to look through your eyes to miss her anymore. Nate's words were cruel in the same way Jason's had been before. Each one struck like a dagger. Large tears welled up in Vivian's eyes nearly identical to mine, and spilled down her cheeks. Her body swayed slightly, and she staggered back several steps. Impossible. How could you possibly know Haley Zhao? Nate stood and gently took my hand, his gaze icy as it swept over Vivian and Jason. I've known Haley for over 10 years. Jason shook his head, clearly not buying it. Vivian said you've been living abroad all these years. How could you know Haley? As he spoke, his expression twisted into something dark and vicious. You're just saying this to get back at Vivian, aren't you? She's never crossed a line. She's never done anything to betray you. How can you be so cruel to her? Every word Jason said was in defense of Vivian. Only after that tirade did he suddenly seem to remember I was there. He reached over and pulled me away from Nate's side, into his own arms. You don't have to play along with him tonight, he said lowly. You and Vivian are completely different in my heart. No one can replace you. Jason didn't dare meet Vivian's accusing stare as he spoke. His grip on my shoulder tightened painfully, like he was trying to stake a claim. Haley, you're my fiancée. You shouldn't be involved with Nate Gu. Before he could finish, I bit down hard on his hand. He gasped in pain and reflexively let go. I broke free from his grasp, stepped back and without hesitation slapped him hard across the face. Jason Chen, I said sharply, what gives you the confidence to think I'm still your fiancé? And for the record, there's no act between Nate and me. Jason held his cheek, a flicker of something like sorrow passing through his eyes, but I didn't care. I walked back to Nate and linked my arm through his. Since we're all just substitutes, why not switch things up? Let's give each other what we really deserve. Then, without flinching, I took off the enormous diamond ring on my finger. One last question, Jason Chen. He slowly came back to his senses, lifting his eyes to look at me. Tears shimmered in them. Haley, what do you want to ask? I raised the ring in front of him, my voice catching a little. Why are my engagement ring and Vivian's exactly the same? Jason froze. Instinctively, he looked at Vivian's left hand, but Nate was the first to speak, cool and detached. I didn't buy that ring. I just wired $5 million. He picked the design himself. I gave a small, bitter smile and turned back to Jason. So you picked out the style with Vivian and bought me the same ring as an afterthought, didn't you? All these years, Jason's love for me had been an afterthought. And now, even the ring he proposed with, also an afterthought. The irony was almost poetic. Even though I already knew the answer, I still wanted to hear it from him. Jason lowered his eyes, his lips pressed into a tight line. The silence was suffocating until Vivian broke it with smug glee. It wasn't just an afterthought, she said. You might as well know the whole truth. My diamond ring is real. Yours? A high-quality fake Jason picked out himself. She laughed, her voice sharp and biting. Did you really think Jason could afford a ring worth over $4 million? Her words hit like a boomerang, right in the center of my chest. I had imagined 1,000 betrayals, but not this one. Jason panicked instantly, his lips parting, scrambling for an explanation. I didn't give him the chance. I hurled the ring directly at his face. The sharp edge of the diamond cut across his cheek, leaving a clean, bleeding gash. Jason Chen, I said through clenched teeth, you honestly disgust me. I looped my arm through Nate Gu's and took a step, ready to leave. But after only a few steps, Nate suddenly stopped. He gently pulled his arm away from mine and walked toward Vivian Shu, who was crying so hard her face was streaked with tears. With a calm, open hand, he extended it in front of her. Our engagement is off. Miss Shu, please return the ring. Tears streamed down Vivian's face as she clutched at his sleeve. The once proud and arrogant woman now collapsed in a half-kneel at his feet. Nate, I don't care if I'm just a substitute. I really love you. As long as I can marry you, I'll do anything you ask. Hearing her beg so pitifully made me laugh out loud. Just days ago, she had mocked me for being a stand-in, and now she was in the exact same place, maybe even worse. At least I had some dignity left. Nate remained unmoved. He pulled the engagement ring off his own finger with the same chill as winter steel. Since the wedding booklet already has Jason Chen's name on it, there's no need to change it back. I'll just offer my congratulations now, wishing you both a long and happy marriage. With that, the engagement between Nate Gu and Vivian Xu was officially over. I thought Jason would be happy. After all, now he had a clear path to chase after his so-called soulmate. But to my surprise, he wasn't. For the past few days, I had been staying in a luxury hotel suite. Somehow, Jason found out where I was. That night, he knelt outside my door, refusing to leave. He didn't knock. He just stayed there, silently kneeling. It wasn't until early morning, when I opened the door to leave, that I saw him there, hunched over, looking disoriented after a night without sleep. The sound of the door made Jason open his half-closed eyes in an instant. He crawled toward me, pulled a ring box from his suit pocket, and looked up at me with bloodshot eyes. "Haley," he said hoarsely, "I bought a new ring. Let's start over. Will you marry me?" I didn't answer. Instead, my eyes instinctively flicked toward the room behind me. Jason followed my gaze, and the moment he saw what was inside, all color drained from his face. Inside, Nate Gu was standing in front of the full-length mirror, slowly adjusting his tie. He turned slightly and looked Jason straight in the eye. "You're up early," he said coolly. "Already here to play the dog again, Mr. Ex-fiancé?" Jason's face flushed with humiliation, his fists clenched tightly at his sides. "What's that supposed to mean?" I stepped in, pulling up the chat history between Vivian and me on my phone. I held it out for him to see. "Take a look. Your beloved White Moonlight said it herself. You're just a loyal dog who follows her around." Jason stared at the screen in disbelief. A single tear slipped from the corner of his eye. Whether it was rage or regret, I couldn't tell. He stumbled to his feet, turned around without saying a word, and walked away. I didn't stop him. I didn't care what happened to him anymore. Even if he killed Vivian today, it wouldn't be any of my business. Nate stepped out of the room, his tall frame leaning against the doorframe. "Haley, do you know why the two of them have been circling each other for so long and still won't be together?" I looked away from the hallway and smiled. "One enjoys the ambiguity. The other wants the money. Jason knows very well he can't be with Vivian, and Vivian prefers someone like you, rich, powerful. Jason doesn't measure up in her eyes." Nate's lips twitched into a half-smile as he looked down at me. "Then what about you? Do you want my money?" I shook my head. "Mr. Gu, the show's over. Time for you to leave. From now on, there's no need for us to stay in touch." A flicker of disappointment crossed Nate's eyes. Clearly, he hadn't expected me to say that. After a moment, his lips curved into a forced smile. "So last night, you only invited me over to put on a performance, right? To play a game of Go, make it look like you'd moved on, and make Jason give up completely." I looked at him steadily, expression calm, not denying a word. I didn't deny it. I refused to be anyone's substitute, so naturally I wouldn't accept someone who once chased after a stand-in, only to return claiming he loved me. "Nate Gu, to me, you're just a complete stranger. If you had truly loved me, you would have stood firmly in front of me 10 years ago. Being able to stay silent for 10 years only proves one thing: you didn't love me enough. And someone I don't like now, I'll never grow to love. Not in this lifetime. I'm sorry." I didn't give Nate any further explanation. Whatever feelings he had for me a decade ago, he'd missed his chance to express them. A teenage crush is meant to stay in that time. No need to say it aloud. No need to reach back for something long past. Nate's gaze lingered on me, dazed and quiet for a long moment. Then suddenly, he smiled, like he had come to peace with something. "Haley Zhao," he said softly, "you're still the same as you were in high school, and maybe that's exactly why I've never been able to forget you all these years." He raised his hand, slowly reaching toward me, then stopped just 2 centimeters from my hair. After a pause, he pulled it back. "If that's how it is, I won't push it. Haley, I hope your life from now on is peaceful and smooth." I smiled faintly. "Same to you, Nate. Peace and smooth sailing."